Hello, everyone. Welcome to your weekly edition of your favorite podcast. I am here with Chris Whitright, Hard H.
That's right.
We will be joined soon by our additional co-host, JT. He'll be here a little bit late. If you know JT, you know that's on brand. We have an awesome special guest. We have Drew Creasman from Mile High Sports to talk Rockies and trade deadline and all of those good things. After that, we will talk a little bit of men's national team. Got some good news there. The Denver Nuggets, we have news there. And then you probably heard, but the Broncos kicked off training camp for 2026. We got all those things around the corner. So hang tight. We'll be right back.
Yo, welcome to the show. Let me set the scene. Mile High Sports Symposium, living the dream. Broncos in the house with that orange and blue. Nuggets making moves, watch that altitude crew. Avalanche bringing ice, check the skills they display. Rockies swinging bats, ready for on-game play. Rapids in the mix, kicking it with style. Buffs bring the heat, put the rivals on trial. Chris and JT, they got the scoop. Mile High vibes, feel that energy rise. Sports on the menu, watch the crowd mesmerize. From football to hockey, we're taking it higher. Join the celebration, feel that sports desire. It's a meta play.
And we are back. Back like we never left, because popular belief, mind you, we didn't leave. Actually, it was just an illusion on your television. I'm here, Nicholas Manning, with the good Hunter Good Man Fan Club president, if you will, and our special guest. I will bring him on the stage, Drew. I like Hunter Goodman more than Chris does. Creasman, how are you? How are you, brother?
Put that at the bottom. I didn't get a subtitle.
I know.
Wow. Too late. It's too late to
Too
go.
late. It's how are you?
I'm doing great. Always good to see you guys and chat some sports, man. How are you?
I'm doing better. I've had a super busy life, but things are geared down. And then I got, like I was telling you guys a few minutes ago, I got a freshly minted 12-year-old who I'm pretty tight with, and so it's been fun watching the birthday cheers and all that good stuff. So overall, not too bad. How about you, Chris?
I'm good, man. Just living the dream, loving on my kids, that kind of thing. So getting ready for school. It's coming quick.
It is. Like Michael Keaton said, you'll never regret spending time with your kids. No one's ever like, man, I wish I didn't go take them to the park that one day.
It's true.
No one says that. Usually it's the other way. That said, I need a break for my kid, and I'm glad that we get to talk sports in doing so, because sports is fun. As you all know, we have no stranger to our conversations. Drew covers the Colorado Rockies from Mile High Sports, has been in the game for quite a while. And earlier when we chatted with you, the Rockies, we at least had some fun or positive momentum. I don't know if I'd say it stalled or hasn't, but I think we know as well as the rest of the baseball community that this wasn't going to be a season for a postseason surge. That said, probably first time in a long time that we have a lot of wanted assets. Who would have thunk? And potentially a competent front office to use those chips appropriately. I know that we have quite a few things to chat about. I'm gonna slide it over to Chris just to make sure we stay in structure, because he's got us lined up with the great ideas and how we want to go. Where do we want to start with Drew? Because Drew is a open vessel of baseball knowledge. We got to point it in the right direction, or just who knows what.
Keep it all in here.
Right. Well, I mean, like you said, we finally have some competent front office people, and it feels strange and weird, and I'm not sure what's going on, but it seems like we at least have a plan of how we're moving forward. So, Drew, let's kind of recap the season on kind of where it sits right now. We're still sitting, dead last, but that's okay because we're like one win away from matching our win total from last year, which is absolutely insane. So, thoughts just kind of in general on the season, how it's going so far?
Yeah, during last year, I coined the phrase on our show or on Mile High Sports, normal bad. I said, we're just looking for some normal bad. And we weren't getting that. We were getting Googling Cleveland Spiders bad. And
I love that.
That's bad. That's bad. That's real bad. So what we've had this year is normal bad, a return to normal bad. This is a last place baseball team, but not one that's so awful that you just can't, like, look, they pay me to watch the games, and there were times last year I was like, I don't know, I'm gonna have to turn this off. Like, this is,
I have to give them their money back.
Just look, Nate. I'm not watching this one anymore. Down 10-1 in the third inning, and you're just like, and that there was no hope for a comeback, right? So yeah, this is one of those things where, as somebody who watches the team every day, I do sound a little bit like a crazy person talking to the more casual fan. Where I'm saying things like, "Well, but they're playing good games now, and they're only losing by 1 or 2 runs, and they're in last place, but they're not as far in last place as they used to be." Like, dude, are you okay? Like, and you go, look, they might not even lose 100 games this year. Again, you're excited about that? And yeah, kind of. After 100
actually
season, a 20-game improvement's a 20-game improvement. And yeah, it still might leave you in last place. They might not finish in last place. They've been kind of back and forth. Just a couple of weeks ago, the Angels and Royals and even the Giants in their own division, they've flirted with. They might not finish last in the NL West, and that would be remarkable, depending on how much the Giants sell, depending on, I'm sure we'll talk about some of the young players the Rockies have to bring up and how that part of the season goes. But the biggest thing for me is this, ultimately, is that the Rockies are clearly on an upward trajectory. And yeah, they started from way downward. Upward was the only way to go. But they are. And as Nick pointed out, you've got a bunch of guys on the team who are playing. Essentially, the entire offense is interesting, worth watching, worth tuning into every single game for. The pitching remains a complete and utter disaster, and that's why you're in last place. That's the name of the game of baseball. But it is different in that the offensive players are good, the base running is good, the defense is mostly pretty good. It's just the pitching, and even some of the pitchers have been all right. And so that'll keep you in more ball games. And but I do think, just ultimately, talked about the front office being more competent. So far, the moves that they've made have widely panned out, none bigger than the acquisition of TJ Rumfield for a reliever that's no longer in Major League Baseball. And this guy might be Rookie of the Year, their first baseman. He's a very legitimate Rookie of the Year candidate. And so so far, the front office has shown that they can make trades to acquire assets that other teams are undervaluing, that are going to come here, make the most of themselves. Troy Johnston's another one. Even Willi Castro, I would argue, was a really good low budget kind of pickup that they said, yeah, this guy can do well for, and that they might flip some or all of those guys, actually. But that continues to show against that Moneyball thing of you get the value that you can, then you use that value to move forward into other value. And so their first trade deadline as this new regime is going to, I think, be telling for a lot of things. What are they prioritizing? What do they value? What do they think how close do they think they are to contention? Are they getting guys who are major league ready or close to, or are they planning for 2 or 3 years from now? And probably the biggest question of all, how much leeway do they have? Is Dick Monfort still got his fingerprints all over this stuff? Or if they end up doing something like big gasp trading Kyle Freeland, that would probably not make a lot of fans very happy. It's also maybe unlikely because he has no trade clause and he hasn't been great. But if they did something like that, it would definitely be a sign that this is a new front office that's doing things differently. There's a different set of priorities, and they are truly at the helm. So, yeah, I couldn't be more hyper focused and engaged on what they're going to do. And I don't know, because, the previous administrations, I knew what they were going to do or not going to do. I knew how the Rockies operated, going back to Dan O'Dowd. There's mostly been people who'd been in the organization forever. I knew Jeff Bridich long before he became the general manager of the team. I knew Bill Schmidt long before he became the general manager of the team. I still have yet to meet Paul DePodesta in real life. I've done several Zoom things. They do more of that in the post-COVID world, which I appreciate as somebody with a toddler.
Yeah.
Aside.
Yeah.
100%.
Thank you for that adjustment. You also did your cinematic research by watching Moneyball, so don't cut that short. That's
and then you watch Moneyball,
yeah.
and then you go, I really want to see what Jonah Hill can do with this. And the other thing is, I love that he and Josh Burns both came in with this idea of like, this is a puzzle to solve. And they're 100% right. That's what this is. And these are smart guys trying to solve a puzzle. So now I want to see what they do, as someone who's been watching it for 14 years closely and for 30 plus in general.
Well, okay. So dovetailing into that, can you give me some of the bright spots that the casual fans should be excited about? I mean, we mentioned TJ Rumsfeld, who I think everybody is surprised by how good he has been. And it's wonderful to see that we actually have a Rookie of the Year candidate. And I know Hunter Goodman made the All-Star team, which is awesome. And again, he will come up later in the conversation about trade candidates potentially. But some of the other bright spots maybe on the team that you've seen.
Yeah, for me, there are two huge ones in the outfield. One we'll talk about in terms of trades is Jake McCarthy. I'm a big Jake McCarthy fan. I'm a fan of the Jake McCarthy prototype. My favorite Colorado Rocky of all time is Juan Pierre. That's dudes who don't strike out, slap the ball around the field, don't have a ton of power typically, but also run the bases like their hair is on fire. A single is as good as a double. A walk is as good as a double, sometimes as good as a triple with that kind of speed. Guy who's hit 2 inside the park home runs from the leadoff spot this year. He makes every time he's at the plate is exciting. He's got some defensive issues despite his speed, but I just absolutely love watching Jake McCarthy play baseball as somebody who's a fan of that style. And then the rookie, Cole Carrig, out there in the outfield has been just an absolute. I'm actually working on a thing right now. You guys asked me before if there's anything to plug, and I forgot because I haven't finished it, but I'm working on a Cole Carrig thing, and I'm going to have a video and a written element of this, and it's basically why this guy is the perfect Colorado Rocky. He can play every position on the diamond. He's an extraordinary athlete with well above average speed and an arm. He didn't quite nab the game-winning run last night in San Diego, but he threw the ball in from center field at over 100 miles an hour and made it that close against Jack. I think it was Merrill was going speed, tag up. It was middle of the. You think anybody else? That's not even close.
No,
Carrig nearly got him. He's a switch hitter. It's the versatility and the high-end tools. And now that he's showed up and immediately is playing extremely well, and particularly in the clutch, which is what a lot of times young players, that the big moment in baseball can get to. You got too much time to sit around and think in baseball. Too much time to go, oh, man, that's such and such pitcher out there on the mound, and I got to walk all the way up there. Cole Carrig, just like he plays baseball like a football player. And I think he was.
I like that.
Yeah, but he's just he's been phenomenal. So those are some of the bright spots. Kyle Karros at third base, somebody we won't talk about in terms of trade. Eric's kid, for those of you of my age. Very slow start to his career. Not the Cole Carrig start. Came up, hit 200 for basically his first year's worth of at-bats going back to the middle of last season. The defense was so good and the general approach was so good they kept him in there. And now for the last 2 months or so, he's been a guy you go, might be a cornerstone piece to build around with him and Rumfield. Of course, that all depends on where Ethan Holiday ends up playing as well at shortstop. The big disappointing news of the season has, of course, been Ezekiel Tovar, who just can't seem to buy a base hit. He's really, really struggled. And he was my pick to be like the Rockies' big breakout star this year.
Yeah.
So good in the World Baseball Classic for Venezuela and won the whole thing. And he was great, but his defense is still good. The metrics don't love him. They're wrong. His defense is still fantastic, but his offense is a train wreck right now. He's one of the worst hitters in baseball. And that's a bummer to see because just a couple of years ago, he led the league in doubles. Like
Do you have thoughts on why that is? I mean, I was going to ask you about Tovar maybe a little later, and it was my opinion was like, okay, this is like kind of the second year that we haven't gotten a whole lot out of him. So is it time to like maybe move on from him? I know he was good in the World Baseball Classic, but hasn't put it together with our organization. So I'm curious.
Yeah, he was hurt last year, and so I think that a lot of people, including myself, just kind of went, weird year. The two before that he'd been so good. He's also so incredibly young. I know he's been around forever, and let me double check on his age because I always forget.
I think is he 24?
He might be 24, despite the fact this is like his 6th year.
Right, yeah. When he gets signed at 12.
Yeah. 24. So he's about to turn 25, but this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is his 5th year in the bigs. And so it's a tough question because his health seems fine. I think mentally, obviously, with ball players, sometimes they just have terrible years. You'll see this and it snowballs into a thing, but I wouldn't give up on him yet still just because of the defensive ability at shortstop, because of his age. He's still signed to a very team-friendly deal for the next couple of years. So, and there's also not a shortstop that's immediately pushing him out of the way. Mm-hmm. If Ethan Holiday was on the cusp, then you got to start talking about, boy, what do you do here? But as of right now, shortstop. Cole Carey can play shortstop. Willi Castro can play shortstop, but that's not really something you need this season right now, right? Let those guys do what they're going to do.
Right. So. If we're going to be bad, might as well be like, let him work through it because we're going to be bad with him being good or bad without him. So,
right. Yeah. And you'd rather have him figure it out because then you've either got the asset to trade or you can still have that guy as your shortstop of the future, move some of these other guys around. So there's no harm in letting him just work through this right now as an organization. Mm-hmm. But as a fan of him, the person and the baseball player, it is rough to watch right now.
Understood. Yep. All right. Well, you teed it up for us. The trade deadline is August 3rd, which is Monday. I was like, I have that right.
Yeah, it's weird, right? But yeah.
I was like, refresh my memory. We didn't used to have it on Mondays, was my understanding.
No, it used to just be the end of the month, and I had to double check this too. But they did it because, and I actually kind of like this, that all the games start later in the day that day.
Oh,
and so I don't think anyone can get traded in the middle of a baseball game, which used to be a semi-common thing. Happened to Troy Tulowitzki.
Right. Speaking of the cinematic universe, I mean, Moneyball had a trade in the middle of hey, by the way, you got to get out of the clubhouse.
Yeah, right. There have been times, I don't know, sometimes the stories are fun. You hear times about guys who've been traded in the middle of doubleheader and played for one team. And
then to the other team.
The other team or whatever. Or guys that get traded and then the game has to resume. And so they end up with like the weirdest stat line of all time. It says they took like 8 at-bats in one regular game. I just love that kind of stuff.
That's funny. All right. Well, Nick, why don't you pull up the trade deadline graphic and we'll kind of get into kind of some candidates and maybe how big of interest we have in moving these guys and how baseball views these guys as trade assets. So,
and so talking with Drew's got his take. And so we have the expected to be dealt. And then we got the only if the juice is worth said squeeze.
Wait, can we pause 1 second? This is a nice picture of Drew. I didn't get the guitar. But
I was going to say,
you are a guitarist as well.
It's my old guitar. Yeah, that's from an old show. And look at that, no gray in that beard. You see that?
Yeah, that's good. Hey, I'm not gonna set my man up. Like if you're gonna. I'm going to get you on here. And
that was a performance in Boulder. That was a big. I had a friend who did these great, they were not really open mics. She had a bunch of friends who were musicians. She would have these concerts at her house and everybody would get together and bring food and drink and get up on the stage and play several songs. And yeah, that's what that one is from. I used to do that for a while. I still every once in a while get out there, play an open mic, little singer-songwriter type of stuff. Have some fun with it.
Yeah.
Man of many talents.
Don't get him started. We'll be here all day, as we should be. So, Drew, when you sent me your list of guys that you expected to be, it was refreshing to see that many names.
Yeah,
because we haven't. It's a famous, some infamous probably. Not dealing Trevor Story. I think you go through the list of missed opportunities for guys who could have brought something back that we knew weren't going to be a Rocky. So maybe go through your list. Why would it behoove the Rockies to move on? Maybe what would be, what kind of level of package could we expect or could possibly get back? And why, maybe what would be a team that you think would want said talent, maybe?
Yeah. Well, we can start right there at the very top of the list. I think Mickey Moniak is a guy that it just makes way too much sense to not trade. And I really like Mickey. Everybody likes Mickey. But it's one of those things where, one, he has a semi-limited profile. He's not the best defender in the world. He's a good runner, and he's not the best left on left. But what he does to right-handed pitching is incredible. And he's now proven it for enough time that, there were some people who were ready to trade him last year after like a hot month or whatever, a hot 2 months. And this would be a much better package deal return. You're still probably not getting an ace pitcher for, again, a guy who does have a limited profile, but hitting is the most important thing in the sport, and right-handed pitchers are still very common. And so Mickey's going to have a lot of value. He did have an injury that cost him some time this year, but he's since come back and been able to pick up right where he left off, still hitting monster dingers. So I think he's very likely to get traded. And I guess I'll bring this part up now, since this is the first guy we're talking about, because when you look at that list there, you don't see any real superstar, right? Hunter Goodman I've got in the not trade, and we'll talk about that later. But I think what we may see, talking about things we haven't seen the Rockies do in a while, not only this many trades, maybe packaging guys together. Because I don't think Moniak by himself gets you a top pitching prospect. But with Moniak and Senzatela for a team that needs a left-handed bat and relief help at the deadline, which is a lot of contending teams. I think you could put the Astros and the Yankees both into both of those categories, teams that are looking for. Now, if you package them both together, you get maybe a higher end, if not an A pitching prospect, A minus, a B plus pitching prospect for those guys. I could see that happening. I don't think the Rockies are taking anybody's top 4 or 5 pitching prospects from this, right? For these guys, they're not getting any top 10 pitchers in MLB pipeline for these guys unless they package them together really smartly. So that said, I think Moniak's got quite a bit of value. McCarthy is somebody whose value intrigues me deeply because, again, I love this kind of player, but we live in this era where power is so valued, so much more valued than anything else. And it's really the one thing he doesn't have. And this is also the first time in his career that Jake McCarthy's been anywhere near this good. Now, don't get me wrong. He's been phenomenal. He's hit 300. He's been fantastic. He never strikes out. He lays down bunts he got a whole rally started a week ago with a runner at second and 2 outs because he laid down a bunt that nobody was expecting. And the Rockies got 4 more 2-out hits and basically won the baseball game. And he plays the game the way I personally believe it should be played. So I don't want to trade Jake McCarthy. I also think that there's plenty of ways in which he would be the veteran outfielder with a bunch of young guys called Carrick. We might talk later about Zach Veen, Charlie Condon, right? I like having a veteran guy around, and Charlie Blackmon is sadly retired. And so I think Jake McCarthy could end up being that guy. But if somebody does offer you one of their best pitching prospects because they think that this half a season is real and they're not going to short you on value because of the lack of power, as much as I love them, the Rockies are in desperate need of pitching. Desperate need of pitching throughout the entire organization. They need bullpen help. They need starting rotation help. They need pitching prospect help, right? And so you got to move some of these guys. Castro is in a very similar category where he's going to have value to some unique team. And this could be really any contender could take Castro because he can play anywhere. He doesn't block anybody. He doesn't cost much. And so, but you're not going to get a top prospect for him, but you could get something.
And he has a second year, right? He's on a 2-year deal. So he's a guy that you could
get a decent reliever probably for Castro. another player that I really like, again, I'm biased toward the guys that play multiple positions. Switch hitting is so much rarer these days. Could be very valuable. He's a good runner, good defender. And then you got the pitchers, right? Which may seem a little bit counterintuitive. You're like, well, if you need pitching, why are you trading pitching? Well, these guys are all veterans who are either at the end of their deals, end of their contracts, or getting up there in age, or both, right? Who are probably not going to be around with Freeland, Lorenzen, Sagano. Senzatela is a different situation. We'll talk about him in a second. But with Freeland, Lorenzo, Sagano, taking out Freeland's uniqueness as a franchise icon, you have three guys who are veterans near the end of their careers, who would probably like to go play on a contending team before they hang it all up. I think Lorenzen in particular struggled with his first bit of Coors Field, but has been better lately and would probably love to get out of here. And
For sure.
has a long enough resume in the rest of Major League Baseball that you're not getting a top prospect for him. You're just not. But if a team needs a couple of these guys to get in a package, I think Lorenzen and Sagano could be really nice sweeteners for a team that needs that kind of help. Freeland is a whole weird mixed bag of emotions, and he's been bad this year, and with the fan base erupt, and does anybody want him? But look, left-handed pitchers always have value.
Yep.
Always. The other thing with Freeland is, if you look at his numbers, he's been terrible. But if you watch my show with my good friend Mark Knudsen, former Rockies pitcher, every week we come on and we yell at the Rockies coaching staff and pitching staff for the way they're handling Kyle Freeland. He'll give you 5 solid innings almost every time, and then he goes out there in his sixth inning ERA has got to be 47. It's I don't know why they keep sending him back out there. It's like, you got your good 5 innings out of him.
That third time through the lineup, ain't it?
Third time through the lineup destroys him. I think if there's smart GMs out there, and if the Rockies have GMs that are as smart as we think they are, you go, hey, look, if you're acquiring this guy as a lefty reliever, look at his stats through the first 4 innings, first couple times through the order. They're fantastic. Trade for that. And then I think he's got some value. But then if you end up trading Kyle Freeland for somebody's mid-level relief pitching prospect, the Rockies fans might actually march on Coors Field. So I don't know.
They might, but as by the way, his ERA, 6-inning ERA is 14.52. So in the ballpark. He's 6.2 innings pitched in the 6th inning, and not great, Bob. Not great. As a Denver kid, and how much I love Kyle, and when he came in, sometimes it's like painful to watch, because I know that he wants to win and do it for his home. Like, I know it to be true. Sometimes you gotta save him from himself. Like, how nice would it maybe be for him to go pitch, in Miami or somewhere where that ball is just heavier, and maybe revive some of the joy of baseball for him. If assuming that that's the thing that drives him, it also probably isn't awful to never have to really leave your home state, and you get paid pretty well, and you get to play for the team you really like, and all the stuff. So who knows? But I feel for him, and sometimes just letting him. It was like trading Larry Walker. It was like we got to give him an opportunity. Like, he's not going to do it here. And so at some point,
let him go win the World Series.
You got to be okay. You got to be okay. He's always going to be a Rocky. And
Drew, you mentioned that, like, we all see the pattern where it's the first 5 innings, perfect, exactly the way we want it to be, and then 6th inning, it's done. So you would think with, like, the pitching staff, and they've seen him for God knows how long now. Let's maybe figure this out. That's okay. 5.5 innings is all we're going to get out of him. So let's just do that. So. That's a little strange that we haven't figured that out yet. But like Nick said, maybe we have to save him from himself. So
I've praised this front office for a lot of things, but again, one of the things that particularly my co-host harps on is that they hired a pitching coach who's 36 years old and has 0 experience on a major league mound. He's a really bright guy, and he knows the analytics, and he knows pitching intellectually, but I would argue, now that I've seen more than half a season. There's no feel for it. They don't know how to handle their pitchers. It's not just Kyle Freeland. It's kind of across the board. They don't have any roles in the bullpen. Until they acquired Jordan Romano like 2 weeks ago, they had no closer. They had no anybody in the bullpen could be called upon at any time to pitch. And for the first month, they all had great ERAs, looked good. And you're like, cool, it's working. Now it's clearly not, and they haven't changed their plan. They haven't adjusted to it. I think Zach Agnos has been fed to the wolves. I could do a whole thing on the bad pitching, management, coaching, decision-making that I think is making a lot of these guys look like they're worse pitchers than they actually are.
Okay.
Can you maybe just give me the elevator about that? What might be some things for fans to know that, right? Like, what are some of the nuance to, like, he's the ERA, right, or some of the analytics isn't exactly a good barometer for how well this pitcher maybe even has pitched to the season or is capable of pitching. Outside of, sometimes you have an inning that takes you from, a 3.75 ERA to a 6.1, and that one inning will stay with you. If you're a reliever, it takes, if you're only pitching an inning at a time, it takes forever to get that back down. But what might be some things that fans can be aware of that might shed some positive light on, because there's some young arms, especially in the bullpen, and it would be kind of nice to know, like, they will get better. Don't judge them by this. Like, here's some of the issues. What might some of those be?
Yeah, 100%. Juan Mejia is one of those guys who I think you're talking about, who you look at his numbers and you go, oh, that's pretty rough. But there have been several times where he's gone out, clearly not had. So the Rockies were down 5-2 in the middle innings, and they sent him out there, and he clearly didn't have his stuff. And he got rocked, and he gave up 3 or 4 runs before recording an out. And in a competitive season, you might say, okay, go get him off of there, keep us in this game, try to do something. In a season like this, and also even sometimes in competitive seasons, depending on, let's say it's the first game of a 10-game homestand or a 9-game homestand, right? Well, you might leave him out there for the simple fact of he's already thrown 15 pitches. You're not going to use him tomorrow. You don't want to go and get somebody else out of the bullpen because they might have better numbers, and you want to use them when you're winning, not when you're down now 7-2 because this guy's struggling. And so you're going to leave him out there. And not only are you going to leave him out there to get the third out in this inning, you might send him out. And I know fans go, what are they doing? He just gave up 4 runs. They go, yeah, but now you're down by this much, and you just need this guy to eat innings. Mm-hmm. And if he's having a bad day, he might give up a few more. And then the next time you call on Juan Mejia 4 days later, his stuff is on. He strikes out the side, and you go, okay, that's what now as a young pitcher, like as the good doctor just said, that doesn't set your ERA. It's still super ugly from the game where they kind of hung you out to dry, right? They needed you to eat the innings. This is happening with a lot of guys this year where it's like, we need you to eat these innings because tomorrow we've got rookie Gabriel Hughes pitching, and we're trying to be gentle introducing him to the big. So he's probably only going to go 5-6. So we know we need 4 or 5 relievers ready to go. And if we go get another reliever today, then we're not going to have 4 or 5 relievers tomorrow. So sorry, kid, going to need you to get 6 more outs. And that'll rough up your numbers. That'll really rough up your numbers. And like I said, I've got plenty of criticisms for how the Rockies have actually handled that dynamic throughout the entire year. Like, poor Zach Agnos this happened to him so many times. His numbers look awful. He's not that bad. He's really not. But when you're being asked to go and get 3 or 4 innings in junk baseball constantly, and then every once in a while asked to close, that's a little screwy.
It's a weird dynamic for sure.
Yeah. So I do hope they're learning. That's the best hope for some of the ugly numbers for the young pitchers is that, and then you can also look to the way they were handling Chase Dolander before he went down with injury, which was arguably perfect. So.
Okay. Well, let's get back to the list. Speaking of relief pitchers, Senzatela is, and I am forever going to screw up his name. So if I screw up his name, I apologize.
It's all good.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. For sure. So anyway, tell us about him.
Yeah, this is one of those weird, fascinating stories, right? Because he was such a great Rocky for so long, and he was never the top guy. He was really guy 3 or 4 in that rotation that made them good in 17-18, right? It was John Gray and Kyle Freeland and Armand Marquez, and then it was Senzatela was that next guy. And without him, they don't make the postseason in 17. Without him, they probably don't make the postseason in 2018. And, you know, nationally, he has this reputation as having only been an average pitcher, and I think that that's wrong. I think particularly when you look at his record at Coors Field, I'm not a big pitcher win guy. The winning record, win-loss is bad stat. But when you have that good a winning percentage at Coors Field, it says something about you. Going back to ERA can be a little misleading. You're going to give up runs at Coors. You're going to get scored upon. If you manage to get those innings and keep your teams in games and they end up winning them, that's got huge value. And that's who he was for like 9 years. So when the Rockies were good, he was a really good pitcher to have on staff. When the Rockies were bad, it was like, God, this guy again, who's just going to kind of go out and pitch 5 to 6 solid innings. Like, yeah, that's what he does, right? Then he got Tommy John and came back and was the worst pitcher in all of Major League Baseball by a lot. One of the worst pitching seasons in recent memory. His whip was over 2. So
Yeah,
I think a lot of people thought, well, that's it. He was on a 2-year deal. It got extended by Bill Schmidt, thinking that he was going to come strong after the Tommy John. He didn't. He comes back this year. And I think most of us thought he's not going to make the team out of spring training. They're only keeping him because they're paying him. And then his spring training was fine. He pitched for Team Venezuela a tiny bit and was fine. And then he started the season and was untouchable for 2 months. Couldn't touch him. All of a sudden, he's sitting on 98. He's got a cutter that he's never thrown before in his life that's jamming everybody. All of a sudden, his breaking ball and changeup are rating out on Baseball Savant is above average. He's above average in every single pitch where he'd been a fastball-only guy with a show-me slider here and there. And now he's a completely different pitcher. Now, it has settled down. In the last month, he's been more touchable. Guys have adjusted. And he's given up some runs. But it's still, his ERA has been phenomenal. He's sitting on 98 with the fastball. The cutter's a real weapon. And so, yeah, he's in a bullpen role now. The Rockies didn't know this was coming, or they probably would have made him the closer on day 1.
Yeah.
Sure.
But, he's got 9 wins as a relief pitcher. So he's been very, 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 very good. And his contract is up at the end of the season. So it makes all the sense in the world that you trade him to a contender. They always need relief pitching. And there's even a chance that Senzatela, if he's like, hey, I had played my whole career in Colorado. My friends are out there. My family's out there. I feel comfortable there. He could just turn around and re-sign here in the offseason if he really wants to. So It's not even one of those things where you're trading this. A lot of people don't consider Senzatela a franchise icon. I kind of do. But I get it. Certainly a stalwart of recent Rockies memory. And if you trade him, I think that would be rough for some people, but I also think, no, he can come right back.
Yeah.
Get value for him.
Yeah.
And as we said, maybe he goes and gets postseason experience. Maybe he goes and pitches some really meaningful games and then brings that experience back with him. Or he signs somewhere else and you say, so long and thanks for all the fish. It's been nice.
Right. Yeah. Or maybe even, networks for you. And he's like, hey, you know what they're building in Colorado is going to be phenomenal. I'm going to go back there. You want to go? Probably won't work but you know what? It is one of the more interesting stories just in Colorado sports in general for who he has been, and even to some success who he's been. And then for as far as he's fallen, to make such an abrupt change when we talked about like this organization is still working to understand their pitching philosophy and how to manage pitchers. So considering all of that working against him, to then show up opening day on being, potentially their best pitcher when he was the league's worst pitcher.
Right.
It's cool. You root for him. That's just it showed up and competed for the team and maybe at his own detriment sometimes to get this. I hope the season can end on a positive note for him. And I will be disappointed if, not in him, but if he is a Rocky past the deadline.
Agreed.
Just for all of the things, like let him go, Trey. Now let's maybe.
Wait, can I ask a question real quick? So, Drew, of this list, who's the most likely to be traded in your mind?
Moniak.
Okay.
I can't see any way he wouldn't be, and there's too many teams who are like lefty pop. Give me that,
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah,
Senzatela I'd put second though. I really do think, again, relief pitching is needed. I think this staff understands where they are and all the things that we just talked about. So I would probably put Senzatela second, and sadly McCarthy third. There's just been so much buzz on the internet around McCarthy. I want him to trade basically everybody else. An ideal trade deadline for me would be everyone on that top list minus Jake McCarthy for some pretty quality pitching, and I'll feel good.
Okay. All right. Good to know. Okay. Let's go to the second list. So sorry, Doc, for interrupting, but
no, you're good. No, I think it's great. Let's go to that one. I hear I've seen some of the I don't know if I would call them reports. I'm not sure which ones aren't in this day and age. That Hunter Goodman, who is just absolutely going Huck Finn on some baseballs. People are down on him because you know what? I don't know if he can play defense, apparently, Joe. Seems like maybe those are opportunities to drive down some value to maybe see if I could get a guy at a little bit of a discount. I don't know if that's true or if that's the real concern, but maybe talk about these three guys, starting off with Hunter Goodman, and one, why he should stay a Rocky, and two, if he weren't a Rocky, what would make you say, all right?
Yeah. Like you said, if I'm on the phone with a GM and they start talking to me about Hunter Goodman's defense, I'm just going to hang up. But first of all, he's not a bad defender. Let me start there. He's roughly a league average defender, and all the stats bear that out. That's worth noting that this is only his second year as a full-time catcher. So he's probably, in fact, again, the stats bear this out, getting better. And will continue to get better. If you know anything about Hunter Goodman, getting better is kind of his thing. He's a student of the game, an incredibly hard worker, a guy who is not a high-round draft pick, who annihilated the minor leagues and never was a top 100 prospect in baseball. Never, well, a lot of times wasn't even considered one of the Rockies' top 10 prospects. Yeah. And now he's a two-time All-Star. And he had, 30 home runs at the break as a catcher. Now, again, I have this particular bias. Maybe Chris will set me right here. I think catching is the hardest job in all of professional sports.
Yeah, it's certainly one of them. So.
Hockey goalie is probably in that conversation. Maybe soccer goalie, depending on but catcher, for the toll it takes on your body and on your mind, and the fact that after doing all of that, catching, you still have to do the hardest thing in all of sports, which is hit a baseball, and that is what you will be judged on. Most people are just going to look at your stats and go. So when you look at a guy's stats and he's got 30 home runs, I don't want to hear any of the rest of it. If you trade Hunter Goodman, and in 3 years, you're a decent baseball team, which is the goal. And I would argue they could do it earlier than that. So if your goal is in 2 years to be fighting for a postseason spot, and you've traded Hunter Goodman to get the pitching that got you there, then in 2 years, the worst player on your team is going to be your catcher. I promise you. I 100% promise you. Look at almost every single team. The worst player on their team is their catcher. Look at every team in Rockies history. Unless you've got Salvador Perez or Yadier Molina or Cal Raleigh, the worst player on your team, and those guys are all from different generations. I just jumped 3. You know what I mean? There's never 2 or 3 of those guys in the league at the same time. Hunter Goodman is an asset you cannot replace. You might be able to use a Moneyball phrase, recreate him in the aggregate. Sure. But if you do that, know that your replacement for him is going to be a fraction of what he is. You cannot get catchers that are both offensive powerhouses and not a nightmare defensively. At any given time in Major League Baseball, there's maybe 2 of them. And right now, Cal Raleigh's having a weird, rough season. So right now there's 1 of them. And so if you're on the phone as a Colorado Rockies GM, you have to treat Hunter Goodman that way, as a singular asset that you and you alone hold. And right now, it didn't cost him anything. Now, there is the question of, well, he's under team control for the next couple of years at still in his rookie deal. Yep. So this is not a guy who you're going, well, maybe shed some payroll. There is no good reason to trade Hunter Goodman, unless, to answer the other part of Doc's question, somebody calls you up and says, I'm going to give you my top 3 pitching prospects. And by the way, I've got the best pitching prospects in baseball. I'm going to give you all 3 of them. And 2 of them are major league ready. You do have to listen if someone goes bananas and wants the best catcher in baseball right now. A catcher who can hit like this is just a value that is very difficult to fully explain unless you've watched a ton of baseball, because it's like it's not even that they don't grow on trees. Like, they come around once in a generation.
Thank you. Yes. Preach, brother Drew. This has been my argument the last couple of weeks, is the fact that, like, what you're trying to build around is Hunter Goodman. So, these prospects that you would get for him, you're hoping they would be like a Hunter Goodman type of prospect. It's like, but you already have one. So why are we dealing him away? Like, let's build around him. So might as well. 2-time All-Star, still got 3 years of control. Let's just rock with it. And again, like, I get, like, you got to listen to every offer, but, like, it's got to blow me away if we're dealing Hunter Goodman.
Yeah.
I will be super disappointed if they end up going, yeah, New York Yankees, here. I know you've expressed some interest. Here you go. Here's Hunter Goodman, and we'll figure out your top prospects, because I don't think they have
50 home runs in Yankee Stadium. He would hit 50 home runs.
Break in there. So, another thing, just to, again, and this is just me, but, like, catchers, especially, like, when they get older, sometimes the knees go. But again, you throw them the DH because that bat is rare. So you still have, like, a DH who could still hit 30 home runs, which is still valuable. I mean, look how Josh Donaldson has aged throughout the last decade or so. So, yeah. Yep. So I'm with you anyway. So,
yeah,
please.
Excellent comp. I love the Josh Donaldson comp.
I think for the reasons that we've hit, you got Chase, you got Gabe, you got 2 young pitchers who have shown the chops. Obviously, Dollander is recovering and making a way back, but as what was this? What did he say? I'm here to. How did he say how good he was?
Oh, what did he say when he went with the injury? See if I can find it.
I know that I'm elite or something. Like, I'm here to get dudes out. Like, there's, I can get anyone out kind of thing.
Yeah.
I just loved it. And
I can get anybody out.
I can get anybody out.
I can get anybody out.
True. I loved it. And I was like, yes, thank you. We need you. Yes, sir. Please. We have some more.
Yeah. Well, and this kind of goes with what Chris was just talking about too, right? Use the phrase building. And I think a lot of people are under the mistaken belief that the Colorado Rockies are beginning their rebuild right now. And I've got great news for everyone. They're in the 2nd or 3rd year of this rebuild, and you're actually at the part where you can start to build. This is the fun part. Now, they do need to do some of the tearing down, right? You saw all the guys. I've got them trading the entire pitching rotation, essentially. But part of that is, so where do you start, right? Chris is talking about you start building your offense with your catcher when he's that good, and really up the middle. The old school way of building your team was strong up the middle. The best catcher you can have, the best shortstop you can have, the best center fielder you can have, and obviously the best pitching that you can have, right? And I think the Rockies can build that way. Goodman allows you to build that way. In the starting rotation, Dollander and Hughes are your first 2 building blocks. The only reason to even consider moving these guys is if somebody offered you other pitchers who you think are better, which is not typically how trades work. So that's why that's why I threw them down here, because these are your 1 and your 2 of your future right now. Now, I'm not sure Gabriel Hughes has the stuff to be a 2. He might. So far, he's had the results to be a 2. He's been very good.
Very good.
But, he's sitting 93, 94 with the fastball. Good mix, smart pitcher. A phrase that's way overused, but still true, bulldog mentality. Things you need to be successful. He gave up 3 runs in the first inning against the Dodgers and then pitched the next 5 innings without giving up anything more in their house as a rookie. In his first actual big league start.
Nice.
He'd come out of the pen a couple of times, but that's a guy you got to keep around. So now you need 3 more. Those of you who are good at math and know how baseball works and understand,
I mean, to be honest with you, Drew, I'd even say 2 more.
Yeah.
Because you're not always going to have, you're not going to all of a sudden be the Braves, the Dodgers, where you,
right.
And most of those teams don't grow their own anyway. And, if you could get 4 and then bring a guy like Sagano in, right? Or maybe that's where Freeland gets slotted, the guy of that caliber who really is a guy that, can you pitch 500 baseball-ish or even 400 baseball if you feel really good about your first 4 guys, especially your first 2 guys. And then you kind of build from there. And I think the expectation that all of a sudden you're going to get aces all over the place just isn't it. Look at the Rocktober Rockies, right? Josh Fogg was a guy that just settled in. Yeah, Dragon Slayer, baby. It settled into a role, right? And that was it. You knew a guy. He got to pitch to his strengths, but obviously did not have the best stuff. He didn't have the best stuff anytime he was on the mound against whoever he was on the mound against. And still competed and then won because of what they needed him to be. Ball, et cetera, in the 17-18, right, you had Marquez, you had Freeland, who was dealing, and then you're able to slot those guys where they know I don't have to go in and pitch to 2 runs.
Tyler
I just got to go in and keep us
fine.
Within. Yeah, I got to compete and eat the innings and that kind of stuff. And so I think Chad Bettis, 100%. Yeah,
even Jeff Francis, who was our ace on that staff forever. So
Aaron Cook, and you got those guys where it's just, if you're giving up 3 or 4 runs, you're able to get into the 6th and things like that. If you have a good offensive team, which it looks like the Rockies have continued to develop bats, then that's where you need to be. And then you hope you develop that ace or 2 that's the stopper that you don't get long losing streaks, and that's kind of how you build it. And I hope that fans aren't expecting that all of a sudden this is going to be that, because most teams don't have that. Most don't, not even good ones. They buy an arm or trade for an arm, but you're not really going to grow those homegrown right away, and especially not for an outfit that just is getting their legs under them. So having 2 guys like that to me have the mentality to be those guys in Hughes, and your example was great about Dodger Stadium, and that didn't overwhelm him, and especially being down early. Right. That was a wake up moment for me. But I think this cat might be pretty good if you have good stuff, but your mentality is unbreakable. That good stuff goes to pretty good stuff, right? And obviously Dollander was everything that we thought he'd be, and from there, you see what you can do. I think they took 16 pitchers. Was that right? Or is it more?
Yeah,
19?
In later rounds.
But
Yeah.
I mean, it did arms. I mean, it's a
army.
Yeah, and potentially 3 of them. You got 3 of them. You got 3 of them, and so I'm excited for that. I think, like you said, this team is in the process of the rebuild. They didn't just start, and even though Baseball America might not recognize all of it, doesn't mean that those guys can't or won't contribute. And with, I think, a much more competent front office understanding what good pitching can look like, or how you can have a guy be successful like Senzatela, et cetera.
Yeah.
I feel like some good days are ahead. We'll be looking back and remember that time we were excited that they just weren't all time awful.
They're just normal bad. Yeah.
They're just normal bad.
Do you want me to paint the picture for you real quick, since you teed me up there so nicely? Because I think we've led right into this point perfectly, right? I think in a year or 2, you're looking at a team that's got Chase Dollander as one of the best pitchers. As far as stuff, he's as good as anybody the Colorado Rockies have ever had. he can be as good, if not better, than John Gray at his height, than Ubaldo Jimenez at his height. He's there at the top of your rotation. Gabriel Hughes is slotted in very nicely, either as a 2 or a 3, and that guy that we're talking about, just good innings. Your equivalent here in the old days of probably what Kyle Freeland, or in the offseason, depending on which year you're talking about, Marquez, Freeland, Senzatela, they all kind of went between those roles, right? Where John Gray, the strikeout stuff was the guy, right? And then you're going to have that veteran in the back half. I'm guessing trading Kyle Freeland's just going to be too difficult to figure out the perfect fit. You hang around him. He's your 5th rotation guy, and the rest of it's filled out by the trades for these other guys. You've moved Moniak, Castro. I'm keeping McCarthy. Don't take away my favorite guy.
I am there too. I was so on board with and then watching him in person, to be honest, is just he has an it thing, and
sports are supposed to be fun, and I think sometimes with analysts we're like looking at the stats like, yeah, but this guy he's fun to watch, and he's fun to play with. He's fun to be on a team with.
Yes.
And
the spark that he provides, like you said, they rallied because he bunted, and then by the time you blink, he was on first base, hair's still flying behind him. There's something about just like having
he looks like a he looks like a 1997 Rocky. He's got the mullet. He's perfect.
Fits.
I do. But trade all these other guys, and you're going to somewhere in that get a couple of pitchers who can fill out. So you got Dolander, you got Hughes, you got 2 guys you acquired through trade, and then Freeland is your veteran 5th rotation guy who can still go out there and at least sort of pitch to 500 baseball. Hopefully use them smarter, and also hopefully in some of these trades and in off seasons between now and next season or the one after, you've acquired enough relievers that you don't feel like you have to try to make Kyle Freeland go 6 or 7 or whatever it is.
Love it.
So now you've got some guys in your rotation. You've mostly got this offense sticking around. And then you can bring up Zach Veen, Charlie Condon, not too far long after that, Ethan Holiday, and you might be well off to the races. It's got the exact same makings of what happened in 2017, 2018, where the Rockies position player prospects all came up first. You remember their names: Nolan Arenado, Charlie Blackmon, Trevor Story. DJ LeMahieu was acquired in a trade, right? David Dahl had that one random all-star season out of there. Ryan McMahon, all come up first. And then in 17, Kyle Freeland, Antonio Senzatela, John Gray, Armand Marquez were all essentially rookies. But they took you to the postseason. You just got those pitchers, but the pitching was the final piece that came in. It was all young. The position players were there. Look at the 2016 team, position player-wise. Those guys were good.
Yep.
But ended well under 500, especially after Trevor Story got hurt. It was done because they couldn't pitch.
Yep.
Next year, almost the exact same team, just new pitching staff, postseason. It can happen that fast. Look at what the Chicago White Sox are doing right now. It can happen that fast. It could happen as early as next season. Another reason why I'm so excited about this trade deadline, because they do have assets. And as you guys just pointed out, not me, they really only need to get a couple of starters, a couple of relievers, and you could be off to the races. You need Dolander back and healthy. You need this Hughes thing to be real. There's a lot of, it's baseball. Look, nothing.
Nothing's guaranteed. And there's always going to be the ifs because of how finicky baseball is, right? Like it's David Dahl. I would have told you, I was such a David Dahl guy. I was like, this guy's going to be a 10-year, like a perennial all-star, right? And there's no reason why he shouldn't have been. And then he wasn't. And it was just like, the ifs.
Injuries.
So, Drew, can I ask you about a trade that we actually already made? So for those of you who have not been paying attention, we traded Seth Halverson to the Dodgers for one older prospect and one younger prospect. So I'm curious, he was a cheap arm that had some stuff, like had the stuff that you kind of crave if you're a relief fan. And we also had flexibility on it. So why do you think he was dealt, and what did you think of the return?
Yeah, that was a really interesting one, right? I think it's, again, another sign that this front office doesn't view young players who just have a thing the way the old one did. The guy who was traded for TJ Rumfield, it was the same thing. I was like, that dude sat on 98 with movement and a wicked slider, but he couldn't hit the strike zone. And turns out that's important. And Seth Halverson was having a very similar problem. Yeah, he sits on 102. Like, it's is wild to watch him throw.
Yeah.
But even when they were sending him down to the minors, he's walking 4 or 5 guys per 9 innings. He's, the walk rates are way too high. The wildness of it, you just couldn't rely on him. And so while I wasn't blown away by the return, basically they got a 27-year-old AAA starter with okay numbers who may not be a starter anymore, but he does throw strikes. And another outfielder, which is the last thing.
I was going to ask you about it because I was like, why did we get another outfielder?
Well, maybe they're planning on trading 5 or 6 of them, and then it would make some sense. As of now, the return made me go, why? But it also was more a signal, I think, about Halverson. Now, of course, he's gone to the Dodgers, so that means for the next 2 or 3 years, we're going to have to watch Seth Halverson suddenly be perfect against the Colorado Rockies, hit his spot every time, and that's going to be irritating.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think there's just as equal a chance he never makes it because he can't throw strikes. And I think the Rockies, this version of the Rockies is showing that they have a much higher value on the fundamentals than they do on the wow stuff or skill or whatever, Sure. So they get this guy who's just a solid pitcher who's probably going to end up in their bullpen over the next couple of years.
Okay. Well,
I mean, it makes sense a little bit. Like if for a team that isn't great, like you can't afford to have guys like what kills you at Coors Field is what? Is it the home runs or it's the walks? When you give people free bases, we know that. And it's like you can strike out 2 guys an inning, but if he's walking 3, that's what gets you. And I think they understand that, and maybe they're operating with a more accelerated timeline than maybe everyone else is looking at. Maybe they're like, hey, we have a chance next year or the year after to compete. This guy's not. It's not going to click for him, and we need to be able to get it. And just having a guy that throws strikes, to eat innings, right? Like.
Yes,
keeps your infield engaged and things like that. I think that's a valuable thing. It would have been nicer to have the guy that pumps 102, but you know what? Riley Pint couldn't either. And at some point you had to say,
no. Once saw Seth Halverson miss the catcher, hit the backstop, and the ball rolled all the way back to the mound. I've never seen that in my life. Got to throw strikes.
All right, last question that I have for Drew, and then we can kind of wrap it, or Nick, if you got questions. So you mentioned Veen and Condon. I'm going to paint you a scenario. We trade Moniak, we trade McCarthy. You can plug yours. We accidentally trade McCarthy. Do we see those guys earlier than September, or are we like? What's your thought? What's your thoughts on how the outfield kind of matures if we get rid of some of these outfielders that we have a plethora of?
Yeah, you definitely do need to make room for them, right? Because Condon and Veen are both guys you don't want to call up and then put in a bench role. That doesn't make any sense. But I think if they make enough trades, if there's spot for them, and the DH does help you out there. Also, the fact that Condon can play third and first base, though, as we talked about a while ago, Karros and Rumfield are not guys you need to replace right now, but it's an option. You can get them off their feet for a day.
Just get them in the rotation.
Yeah. So you can move Condon around a little bit. Veen more or less needs to be a right fielder, I think, with his skill set. You can put him left if you want, but those are the spots for him. I think we're very likely to see both those guys. I get the weird sense that the team isn't as in love with Zach Veen as they used to be. I know he had a rough year last year. I know he's had some off the field issues that have been well documented and whatever. But look, if he stays in the PCL all year, he's going to be PCL Player of the Year. Even if he doesn't, he might still be PCL player. That's how good he's been. And he got off to his first month was okay to bad. So he's been the best player in that league since. You got to bring him up. You got to see what he's got. Unless they plan on trading him, which would be different for the Rockies to actually move a prospect. Zach Veen is probably the only prospect they have that's got a decent amount of value. But I still think the more likely thing is those veterans get moved. Veen becomes basically your everyday right fielder for the rest of the season. And you can also, as I mentioned earlier, you can move Cole Carrig around all over the place. So I'd like to see them play him at second base a little bit more, just because they've got a big question mark hole there, especially if they trade Willi Castro. Then it's just like you got nobody to play second, and haven't since DJ LeMahieu. It's been a minute. So what do they do with that? You can move guys around, but I would love to see the day after the trade deadline. I think there's a chance this happens. Condon and Veen are called up and become everyday regulars for the rest of the season.
Okay, cool. And then again, just for the casual fan and even me, because I don't exactly understand it, but the clock starts on their arbitration eligibility, especially for Condon. I think Veen may have already started his clock. I'm not sure.
Right. So yeah, that'll start the clock on that. And you're pretty good on both of those guys in terms of service time and having several years of control. So I don't think there's any reason to delay at this point. There was a consideration about that if at the beginning of the year Condon had just gone. He had a good spring training at the major league level, but then his first month, again, like Veen, his first month in AAA was okay.
Yeah.
So you're like, okay, you don't need to do the service clock thing. You don't even need to worry about it. And since then, he's been fantastic too. So Condon's going to be good, dude. Condon hits the ball so hard. He hits the ball so hard. It has been a minute since the Rockies had a guy like this. Story, I think, is the last guy who even Arenado didn't routinely hit the ball that hard. He would even tell you himself that Nolan Arenado had to try to hit home runs. He sell out, give your A swing out. Trevor Story would hit home runs on accident. He'd hit oppo shots where he was just trying to make good contact. That's the kind of power that Charlie Condon has.
Yeah, watching him
Jeremy
and
Burnett,
Jackson Holiday,
Adam
like
Dunn.
that was the
Mark Reynolds.
There you go.
Totally guys.
my man, Mark.
Okay. All right. Drew, we appreciate your time. I don't have any more questions. Nick,
No.
What about you?
Yeah, I appreciate it, brother. I'm excited to see post deadline how it stacks up. How do they do? We'll
have me back in a week or two if they trade 0 people and I have to just come on here and be like,
my God.
I will hold you responsible. That's for sure. Yep. We appreciate you. Well, thank you. With that, we're going to transition to some other sports. Nuggets made some news, and U.S. national team made some news, and then the Broncos and all that stuff. So to do that, we are going to have to
pay some bills,
read some things. So first and foremost, if you get a chance, go like, subscribe, comment, algorithms, all the stuff, because so do those things. It's super important for you. Also, if you get a chance, if you want to win a Nick Bonito signed mini helmet, we will do that when the network reaches 1,000 subscriptions on YouTube. So go again, like, subscribe, do that stuff. If you're not sure how to do it, ask your kids. That's what I do.
Make sure your profile is public, otherwise you won't be able to win.
Thank you. Nice job. Yep, you got to make sure you like those things. We have shows all over the place. English, Spanish, doesn't matter. Make sure you check us out all over the place. And then I am not able to utilize this service as much as possible, but you can. If you want to go over to Lily's Beauty Salon. Business hours Monday, Tuesday are closed because you know what? People have stuff to do. But Wednesday to Saturday, open till 7:30, and then 9 to 5-ish on Sunday up in Thornton, one of my favies. And then finally, again, you know as much as I know, if you will pick me up, caffeine isn't that awful. I don't care what people say, but I'm not a medical doctor, so don't take that directive from me. But as a dad, sometimes I gotta get where I gotta get, and I gotta get there with some vigor. So with that, caffeine's dope. You can buy yourself some phenomenal stuff called Dubby. Dubby is a jitterless energy drink, a whole bunch of wonderful flavors. You can use the promo code OBN10 for Orange and Blue Network 10, or as we say, Moniak 10, because he's number 10. However you want to remember it, you do what you do. But the good stuff about it is no sugars, no calories, no stuff I can't pronounce. Again, if you can't pronounce it, don't put it in your body. Something to always remember here. And then with that, we are back. Dun, dun, dun. All right. I am going to stay away from the U.S. men's national team news. I'm going to go and let you own that really quick before we jump into the things that I have some weight in. So go for it, Chris.
Yeah, so big news today in the United States men's national team realm, Mauricio Pochettino is going to be our manager until the next World Cup, which is exciting because we have some continuity. His team showed really well in the World Cup. We were really excited about it. They were playing actual, honest to God, exciting football, possessing it. They were scoring goals. They were running up and down the pitch. It was exciting to watch rather than just kick it long and hopefully, either Clinton Dempsey or Landon Donovan does something amazing with it. So it's exciting to see. There's a little bit of worry that he was going to maybe get poached by a Serie A team, which is the Italian Premier League. So, but it's great news to have him back because a lot of national teams are switching coaches right now. Like there's 9 or 10 jobs just of the teams that made the World Cup that are open, and so it's good to have him back, and we're excited about that. So, and with that, yay for JT!
Yay! Just for the record, though, you nailed that name pronunciation, but you can't say Senzatela.
Shut up! Don't make fun of my speech impediment. Anyway, exciting World Cup men's national team news.
Yeah, and it's like we timed it. So JT, you came in right in time when we were talking Nugget stuff as you're wearing the hat for it.
Perfect.
Before we go into the Broncos, so the Nuggets made news. I don't know if I would categorize it as good, bad. We'll find out. I mean, they matched Spencer Jones' offer sheet from the Oklahoma City Thunder. So he's a stay-in, which puts them in the second apron of the salary cap. Again, why we are making it this challenging and difficult for sports stuff, I don't know. I'm finding it super interesting that NBA teams are hiring TV personalities and reporters who understand the apron to their front offices, because it is that hard to find people who are qualified and equipped to be able to manage that aspect of it, which I find a little bit comical. So, JTZ, one, first, how are you? You have to answer real quick, and two, gotta give us your Nuggets take on Spencer Jones. And was that as far?
What's up, everyone? How we doing today?
Good.
Drew, thanks for being here. Better than me, for sure. So, I'm good. Nuggets, yeah, they re-signed Spencer Jones, 2 years, $6 million a year. It looks, it's funny. We were getting a lot. I was seeing a lot of people saying Sam Presti was a genius for this move, and in a way, I get the take, right? They forced the Nuggets into the second apron, which does complicate things a little bit. However, I think that in a way, it's kind of it was kind of a good thing for the Nuggets. When you enter the second apron, it's either you can't do multiple players for in your trades, so it's got to be player for player, or it's got to be picks, and the Nuggets need picks. And so if a sign and trade is inevitable, then that's probably the route they're going to want to go anyways. I don't know if you're going to get a player for player trade that you want for Peyton Watson, unless someone really offers you something really nice. So ultimately, I think it's a good thing. Spencer Jones is a contributor for this team. He's a defensive stalwart. He can play kind of the 3, 4, 5 position in a pinch if you need him to. This team is lacking defense. That's why they went and got defensive MVP. And Spencer was reliable. I think he logged I can't remember, his 5th or 6th most minutes in the playoffs last year for the Nuggets. So he's a guy that, was obviously, I wouldn't say instrumental, but he was an important piece for the Nuggets last year. OKC, yep. I don't think they would have put an offer in if they didn't think he was valuable. And so if you think that OKC is building a good program where they're at, then it's probably a good sign that the Nuggets retained a player like Spencer Jones. So ultimately, I think it's a positive thing. Now, what does it mean for the Peyton Watson piece? That remains to be seen. However, it's one more signing, one less signing that Denver Nuggets fans have to kind of wait and hold their breath for. One less guy walking away that's got some upside. And ultimately, even though the roster is a little bit, the construction is a little bit odd right now, you're going to find minutes for that guy. So I'm a fan. I like it. I think it was a good move.
I think Adelman trusts him too. I think that's probably the one of the reasons we decided to match. I asked you guys in our group chat, whether we thought this was a good move, and I think JT laid it out perfectly, at least in my opinion. I think Sam Presti gets the benefit of the doubt because I think he has built something in a couple different places. So, but I think it was smart of OKC to say, all right, we're going to try and sign this guy. Nuggets, you need to figure it out. And I'm glad that we figured it. I'm glad that we signed him. I believe he is a nice piece for us. My problem is now you go into the second apron. And again, we're now locking ourselves into these contracts that we're going to struggle to trade. Like we still need to get rid of Zeke Naji and, Cam Johnson still we need to figure out what's going on with that. And we keep just re-signing these guys to re-sign them. And it, to me, I'm not sure what the plan, it still doesn't seem like we have a plan yet is my only concern with it. Like I like the player, but I'm concerned about the plan. So,
yeah, I mean, I think eventually the plan is to get under that apron and not have to pay the luxury tax. But right now, it's kind of the situation, or the way that free agency is right now. It's hard for any team. It's not just the Nuggets they're struggling to make moves. There are lots of free agents sitting out there still, veteran guys that can contribute. DeMar DeRozan's name's been out there quite a bit. Russell Westbrook's name's been out there quite a bit. Obviously. Guys that are on the tail end of their careers, but can contribute to teams. So I think it's going to be kind of a slow roll. It already has been, but it's going to continue to be that way. Some of these guys may roll into October before we see any movement. Hopefully not Peyton Watson. Obviously, we hope that gets done sooner than that. And imagine it would be or would happen, but. I think the Nuggets kind of have, as far as the reporting goes, it seems like Peyton Watson's considering playing for the offer sheet that he was given. And so if that's the case, then that remains a good contract for the Nuggets. Something maybe there's some ill will. Maybe it isn't a long lasting relationship between Peyton Watson and the Nuggets at that point. But, it gives you a little more leverage right now to kind of be able to negotiate. How does that end up? We'll see. But I think it's a difficult position for the Nuggets to be in. It is a difficult position that they inherited when Calvin Booth left. And it's a matter of whether they are going to get what they want for one of their stars or expiring contracts in Cam Johnson. It's just going to be a little bit of waiting game, see who's a buyer and who's a seller. But it's just the way that the cap is and the way they've got it structured right now, it makes it difficult to trade for anyone, really.
Okay, well, I was actually I was listening to Mark Stein on some podcast. I don't remember which one it was, but he said maybe the market for Peyton Watson has not been as robust as he was hoping for. So that's why he's like, I'm going to sign this offer and then be an unrestricted free agent next year. So which would make sense. It honestly surprises me that Peyton Watson didn't have the market that I think we all thought he did in May. So, which is interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's same as Jonathan Kuminga, right? Like that, those guys both thought that they were going to have the stellar market. Both are young. Yep. I think they're under 24, just turned 24. I know Kuminga is shy, both of them power forwards who, roughly 12-ish points a game. And the aprons, who would have thought the aprons would be so restrictive, both if you actually wore an apron and two, the NBA equivalent of like there's just isn't there. And when you have to go player for player, dollar for dollar, all of those things, they're just I get what they're doing because I understand cap and level playing fields, but it has made this offseason awful. Like there's no enjoyment, there's no hot stove, there's no trade deadline, like all of that stuff is just stagnant, and when 42-year-old LeBron James is like, even that is just, he has to take a $4 million a year deal for one of the greatest players ever, which he can afford to do. But he's got to do that to be able to go to a team that doesn't suck. Is just such a hard thing to be able to sell to basketball fans, and Peyton Watson, 100%. He doesn't have a market. If he had a market, he'd have an offer sheet. And I think now being pushed where they can't accept, it's either going to be. I think they actually can't take a player back because of the apron. I think they have to only take draft picks, which I think is good, because then you don't get saddled with Paul George or the ghost of, and but that means that Peyton Watson's card is pulled. Essentially, he's going to have to either accept a low ball offer, or he's going to have to play on the restricted tag, which will create hard feelings no matter what. And so but in the end, this is it's a business, and not all the business is meant to make you feel good. And we will see where it goes.
Do you think we could still get Jaylen Brown? I think he's probably not too happy that LeBron James is going to go.
LeBron James is going there.
I don't think he's super happy about that.
Yeah, talk about ball dominant place.
I will just say real quick, just to kind of counter that, I am surprised, a little bit surprised that the Peyton Watson market maybe hasn't been great. However, at the same time, the way they've set up this cap situation is that really the teams are built kind of paying one or two guys and then like big money and then kind of getting guys on good deals. And right now, when you have an unknown commodity, Peyton Watson showed some stuff last year. However, he was injured. He's a guy that, there's speculation he could have played in the playoffs and maybe chose not to. Do you want to commit big money to a guy like that may not end up panning out to be a all-star caliber kind of player? And that's kind of where these middle of the road younger guys that kind of have potential but haven't shown anything yet, it's hard to commit to them right now because it's just, you could sign a Christian Brown-esque contract, and if he doesn't perform, then you've got a bad contract on your hands, and it's almost impossible to get rid of. So, the GMs in the NBA have got it. They've got to figure it out. I'm sure that there will be some changes at some point. But maybe not. We'll see. But it's there's a lot of red tape, and guys got to figure out where value lies now.
Yeah, not enjoyable, but you know what? At least it's not just the Nuggets. It's painful. But I presume Peyton Watson will be a Nugget.
I think so.
And in the end, they just have to get under the tax threshold by the end of the season.
Yep.
So really at the deadline, so they can kind of have the appearance of going all in, but they might have to, because you have to have a partner. It takes two to tango, as Billy Madison once taught us, and so they don't have a second, so they ain't tangoing. And if that's the case, then you got to field the roster. They still have 2 open spots, and we'll go from there. But you know what? Knowing everything, this is going to be like the most fun Nuggets team to watch, and we wouldn't have expected it because this has been so good.
Right.
That isn't true and accurate. It's not going to be. That's because Christian Brown is a Nugget and Kansas is
right. I was like, Nick is making stuff up now.
I'm just half glass something. So, all right. Well, speaking
of glass half full, let's talk about the Broncos.
Let's talk about a team right now that has been in the world of suck, but chose to get out of it. And we appreciate them for it. So, Denver Broncos have reported to camp. They're camping. And even Jonathan Cooper, who at least has not done awful. It's using our Rockies terms. That's just regular bad. He just kept his mouth closed and phoned to himself and all that good stuff. So a team that has some Super Bowl aspirations is back. And so we were going to look a little bit about where would we put them, if we were ranking position groups with the AFC West. Hard H. So let me throw up our little idea sharing here, and then let's have a little bit of funsies. And Drew, you're going to have to participate too, because it makes funning more fun when your friends join. So if we were to, debate this a little bit, where where would we have the Broncos rank in terms of quarterback rooms against their AFC West partnerins or brotherins or whatever? You guys know what I'm getting at. What about you, Drew? Where do you think the Broncos rank? We got Patrick Mahomes, you have Justin Herbert, and you have Captain Kirk. For the Raiders, what's your general feel about where the Broncos stand right now in terms
I'm
of
gonna put our guy at the top. I'm gonna go full fan right now. You know, Mahomes ain't what he used to be. I don't have to be objective anymore. I don't have to. I don't have to look at the numbers. I don't know. I don't care.
Love it.
I don't know what it is.
I love it.
I think Bo Nix is the real deal. I don't care how he plays in the first 3 quarters. Look, man, it's not a baseball game. It's not every inning counts the same. Legends are made in the 4th quarter.
That's right.
Nobody talks about what John Elway did in the 2nd quarter of his career.
That's true.
Nobody talks about what Peyton Manning did in the 2nd quarter of his career. The football games against 2 good teams are won and lost in those last couple of minutes, and I'll take Bo Nix over any of these guys. Look, Mahomes had his time. There was a time where this would have been an obvious slam dunk. You don't even pretend to put your guy in the conversation, but it's past, right? I don't know if it's done. I don't know if he's not who he used to be. I guess I'll just say it that way. So, mad respect for Herbert. There's some good a lot of talent here, but I'm taking our guy.
I love it.
Me too.
Tell me what he does in the 3rd quarter. They're running the ball too much. I don't care, man. You play to win the game.
That's right. That is right.
I'm saying 2. So I still have respect for Mahomes. Yeah. Again, I don't have the respect that Drew has for Justin Herbert. I think he has been good, but he hasn't been like he's closer to Kirk Cousins than he is to Patrick Mahomes. So let's all calm down and I think Bo is solidly number 2.
I'll take that one. JT, where you at?
Yeah, I'm not ready to write off Mahomes already. I mean, I'd love to. I love the enthusiasm by Drew. And I think Bo Nix is the real deal for sure. I just think, we'll see after this year. Maybe Mahomes is declining. He's been hurt, that's for sure. Maybe he loses his legs a little bit, but I'll still put him just above Bo Nix. But Broncos number 2.
Yeah, right. Metaphorically, the legs, not realistically losing those. You know what, Michael? So if anyone's familiar, Mike Clay does a very analytic rundown of position rankings, NFL rankings, all of that stuff. And Mike Clay thinks that the Broncos have the best quarterback in this division. I think Patrick Mahomes has continued to go backwards over the last 3 years. Mind you, he's still, one of the greatest probably to ever play it when things are all said and done. But coming back from a torn ACL in 6 months or 7 months, that's hard. And, all the Toradol shots are great and all. They are actually. But it does. That also worries me of so he's rushing back to play in week 1 of this season. What is that going to do for his knee for the next 3 years when he's only 30? Like that year, we're rushing him back with a team that's not that great. I just, going over what I think the player will be this year. I think Bo Nix right now is poised to be the number 1 spot. I think Mahomes will settle in at the 2. I think Justin Herbert is Kirk Cousins. So
y'all
Kirk Cousins is no longer Kirk Cousins. You know what? We might be nuts.
You know who else is coming back from an injury? Bo Nix. So let's slow down. Yes. Let's slow down just a little bit.
Well, my man's running without a brace on, and
okay.
I'm fine there. You know what? That's what we have. We're supposed to have dissent.
It's fine. I don't care. I'm just saying.
Yep, that is right. You're outvoted, and I mean, we didn't even have to say anything after Drew talked. So, JT's with you. He's fine. But you know what?
That's my role here. I'm glass half empty.
That is true. So yeah, you are. It doesn't matter.
Look, you get on the bandwagon.
Let's go to the running back room.
Hey, gents, I've got to bounce. So
okay,
you bounce then.
I love you guys. Thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate it. So
appreciate you. Take care.
yeah.
So our running back room, you got JK. Will I play Dobbins? You got
It's a big question
Kenneth Walker.
There's sort of a giant question mark in the middle of this question.
I mean, there really is. Is there, like, baseball wise, right? Is there a player? It's like too lowish where it's, I mean, I don't even know, where it's like you never question how good he is when he plays. It's just whether or not he's going to play.
Right.
And if he's on the field, he's phenomenal. I mean, J.K. Dobbins is top 2 or top 3 yards per carry average in the history of football. He has the ball in his hands when he plays. It's literally just if he's on the field or not. Yeah. It's such a interesting dynamic. Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP, is now a Chief. Marion Hampton, who everyone wanted the Broncos to draft, hopefully back healthy and running for the Chargers. And then Ashton Genty, who I think everyone had high hopes for. Where do we see the Broncos ranking in this group in terms of the running back rooms?
It's tough. That Dobbins question is just so so I guess the question is really how much do you expect J.K. Dobbins to play, because then the Broncos I think will still have the best, but if you take the general average, I guess, of it, right, of both playing time, so if I were to put it in baseball terms, I know that they've got WAR, right, is general, like including the not. I go second. Probably that's probably where you're going to end up from your running back crew in terms of how much they collectively, run for, I would guess. But if Dobbins has a healthy year, you run away with it.
Yeah, I think that's a fair, and you have to account for what you think you're going to get production for, not just if we were to for one game, who's best, because it's this 17-game season, and he has yet to play all of them. Or I don't know the last time he finished a season. I think I don't know if he was able to get back on the field with the Chargers 2 years ago. He missed a chunk, but that is a huge if that is real, because data has suggested he's a guy that has weird things happen. What about you, JT? Or who do you think takes the number one spot if you were to give the crown to running back rooms in the AFC?
Yeah, it's a tough division for running backs. I mean, there's a lot of potential at the position, but there's not a lot of actual production yet, and so it's hard to say. I mean, I probably will give Kenneth Walker the nod as number one right now with that in that room. I think that as a Super Bowl MVP, he's shown that he can produce, though historically he hasn't been super healthy either. So it's just a matter of how much workload he can handle. I think that they will try and run the ball more in Kansas City this year. I think they have to, especially with the inconsistency from the receiver group that they've been getting. They've got to rely on the running game. Kelsey's a year older. But I think I'd put Broncos number 2. I think Genty has a good chance at emerging this year and having a really good season. I think Hampton's got a chance, though. I'm not really a big Hampton believer, going back to kind of our draft stuff, but I like the young guys in the division, but I think that they've got to show something. I think JK's already proven that when he's on the field, he can produce. RJ needs to figure out how to run between the tackles a little bit more, but can be productive if you get him out in space. And then we got Coleman kind of, being a short yardage guy. I think he's got potential. So I like the room for the Broncos better than I like the rooms for Kansas City and the Raiders. I mean, not Kansas City, sorry. The Chargers and the Raiders. So I'll put Broncos at 2 right now.
Yeah, I think if you think totality of the room, I think that it changes a little bit of the conversation. I think you, by default-ish, Kenneth Walker is coming off of Super Bowl MVP in a 1,000-yard season, so you kind of got to give there.
Yeah. I have a question to ask, and then unfortunately I also have to take off because I can hear the kiddo waking up. But I think a big part of these two questions, the wide receiver group coming up next and the running back group, is also going to be for the Broncos, right? How much, I'm sure you guys have talked about this before, but how much do you expect them to continue to run the football? I know this has been a big thing of going back to the Bo Nix conversation, right? with the way JT just laid it out for me, that makes me think they have all the tools to continue to run the kind of game that they have, which is run the heck out of the ball for the first 3, keep the games close, open it up in the 4th, and go maybe a little bit more that way. So you expect that similar type of approach, a lot of running and not airing it out early, or do you think that as Bo Nix continues to mature and maybe with the next group of guys you're going to talk about, do they have the wide receivers to let him go and throw?
Yeah.
That's my question.
I think that's and with Davis Webb coming from the air raid, I think he threw the ball like 60 plus times in a game or 70 times in a game in college. So that's a good question mark, and we don't know yet, I think, about how that would go. I think teams that are successful in the playoffs run the ball, and they don't just usually turn it on. And so I think for this team to be successful, that has to be the case. Will that be the case? That'll be a good question for sure.
Yeah, and I think Davis Webb said in one of his interviews when they reported back to the facility early on, he mentioned running the ball. I mean, it was an emphasis of his, and so I think that it's on his. It's going to be on his mind. It's going to be in the game plan. Now, I think it was in Sean Payton's game plan too, but I don't know that he always sticks to the game plan. So we'll see. But I do like that he mentioned it, and he did. It's always going to be kind of on the back of his mind, I think, especially as a young offensive coordinator. Like, hey, we got to establish the run. So I think he'll try. I think he'll try to at the very least, try and get the run game going early, as opposed to just kind of airing it out like I think they all want to really do.
It's so fun.
Oh, it is fun.
It's
especially,
so much fun.
Especially you get Waddle now, and you can just get him the ball in space and let him go. So,
yeah.
All right, fellas. Thank you
Appreciate
so much
you, brother.
for having me.
Thanks,
Try to take off.
you,
It was fun to talk sports other than baseball, Doc. So I
Yeah.
appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do that. I don't get to do
Absolutely.
that very often. So
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're awesome. We appreciate you. We will be seeing you soon, no doubt.
sounds
Yes, sir.
good. Have me on anytime. Literally, you got
Sounds
my
good.
number. All right.
Yeah,
Appreciate
See you later,
See ya.
JT.
Later, man.
Bye. Ah.
Oh, I'm gone. Oh, I'm back.
Nope, there you go.
All right, what do you got? What do you think running back? Did you say number 2 for running back?
Yeah, I think I'm fine. I'd slot him in at the 2. I think just availability, RJ Harvey. I think sometimes you overvalue your own team, right? And so
Yeah.
I don't know that the rest of the league looks at RJ Harvey as scored 12 touchdowns and all that stuff. Jonah Coleman, is that any different than Emmett Johnson for Kansas City? So,
Sure.
and I just, at least at this point in time, I trust Andy Reid a little bit more to be creative and lean there. And I think that you don't give Kenneth Walker that money if you're Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy if you're not really committed to having that be a big part of your game.
And Reed always had good running games until Kansas City, really. I mean, he always had a good running back wherever he was. And so it would surprise me to see them not going and getting a guy like Kenneth Walker. It would surprise me to not see them utilize him as much as possible, assuming he's healthy. So,
yeah. All right. I like it. All right. Wide receiver room and tight end room. Yeah. What do you think?
I think the Broncos are number 1.
Yeah. I really
I think
like
they're
it.
number
How
1.
crazy is that?
I just think, you bring in Waddle. Obviously, that's a huge factor. Cortland Sutton's your number 2. I don't think there's a better number 2 in the division. If you consider Cortland even a number 2 as opposed to 1A or 1B. I think that Ladd McConkey's a good receiver. They have high hopes for Quentin Johnston, but I don't think he's the receiver that they drafted him to be. There's some good players. There's some interesting players. Obviously, Rashee Rice, if he can stay on the field, is an effective playmaker, but really only against zone, not against man for whatever reason. Xavier Worthy has some ability to pop the top off of a defense, but again, it's very hit and miss. Feels very Marvin Mims at times. He'll be there one game and make a splash, and then it takes a while for him to do the same thing. And Travis Kelce's aging, and outside of him in that tight end room, there's not a lot of upside. They have Noah Gray as their second receiver, who was a late draft pick. They have Jared Wiley, who's a solid depth guy, but I think maybe Oronde Gadsden and David Njoku are maybe the most interesting tight end duo in the division. But I think overall I'd give it to the Broncos.
Yeah. Just do you trust Rashee Rice and Xavier Worthy? And more of it Xavier Worthy hasn't, I don't, it's speed, but tiny frame, frail dude.
Right.
Rashee Rice, good frame, weird dude.
Yeah.
Travis Kelce, is going to be the underneath merchant. But if you don't have, they have some speed. Taquan Thornton is fast. But I don't look at that and say like, hey, I would take any of their guys over our first two guys. And I think the tight end room maybe is where it like evens itself out a little bit because of I think that the rest of the division has really good tight ends. But
Brock Bowers is probably the best of them, but
by far. And he's alone there. And Gatson is at least came on strong. But again, and Njoku, but they're not going to line up with both of those guys because then what they're doing. Neither of them are great blockers, and so the run game, which I just don't. I don't love all of the personnel, so I would absolutely say the Broncos 1. I'd probably say the Chiefs 2, Chargers 3, Raiders 4. All right, let's go to O-line. It seems pretty slam dunk to me.
Yeah, I don't think
the Broncos would be 1. Yeah, well thought of throughout the league. Good depth, continuity, same group 3 years in a row, which is just awesome and unheard of. I like what the Chiefs are putting together with their tackles yet. We'll see. Jalen Moore gives up a lot of sacks. Josh Simmons gets hurt.
Yep.
And I really like the Chargers tackles. We'll see what they do inside, but everyone's coming back from an injury there. And like J.K. Dobbins, I don't know that they won't get hurt again because it's the Chargers.
Yeah.
There's a more snake-bitten team.
On paper, they may push Denver, but yeah, until they can show they can stay healthy, I think you got to give it to Denver.
Yep.
That's just where I'm at. Slater and Alt are, arguably the best duo of tackles, but again, show it to me. Show me that you can stay healthy or be there at least for a long stretch of the season. But yeah, that is a strength of that team, I would say, for the Chargers is their offensive line.
Yep. Yeah, I dig it. All right, so we got the Broncos 1, Chargers 2, Chiefs 3, Raiders 4. Seems like quite the consistent theme here for the Raiders. Defensive line edge group.
This was a little more difficult.
Yeah. What are you thinking there? I'm gonna let you go on a ramble real quick.
Yeah.
I am gonna come off the screen, but
okay. I right now I would probably put the Broncos at 2 or 3. I think that obviously, there's with Jonathan Cooper being back, that's a really important piece. Regardless of the off the field stuff, he's at camp, he's expected to play. Until he's not playing, he's part of the equation. So I do think that jumps Denver up. I would probably put them at 2 right now. Well, you know what? Maybe I'll put them 1, actually. Let me look. I'm looking at depth charts here just to make sure I'm not missing any transactions. Khalil Mack is good, but he's older now. I like some of the guys. Dalvin Tomlinson, good addition for the Chargers. Obviously, Chris Jones is a beast. Tonga from New England was a really good addition for Kansas City as a run stuffer.
Yep.
They have some guys, Omar Norman Lott and Peter Woods, that could be interesting depth guys. So I might. I struggle. I'm struggling, Doc. I'm not sure. I'm either going to put Broncos at 1 or 2. But I can't. I think with Nick Benito and Jonathan Cooper both being there now, and obviously an effective duo. There's been turnover on the defensive line with Franklin Myers, but I like Roach. I think that the guys that they have in there, I like that they drafted a guy for some depth. I think they did a fairly good job of reloading, quote unquote. Will it be quite as good as last year? Remains to be seen. But there's some guys in the room that can play. I think I may put them second just because I like some of the young pieces that Kansas City has in place. And I like Tonga a lot that they brought over from New England as their own stuffer. But man, it's tough. It's a tough group to predict. Max Crosby obviously is a beast for the Raiders, but outside of him, I don't really fear anyone else in that group too much. I don't know. Where do you land with all that?
I think the Broncos, leading the league in sacks the last 2 years. You lose John Franklin Myers, but that's assuming that added snaps for Malcolm Roach or Owazarike Onyedem, that Jones won't step up. I think assuming that you would just lose those, and even if you lost his 8.5 sacks, Broncos still would have been first in sacks. And so I think the Broncos edge group is the best tandem in the division. I think Zach Allen right now is the best interior defensive lineman in the division. No disrespect to Chris Jones, but I think some of his best football is behind him. I think when you have all of those things, I think for me it's the Broncos 1, Kansas City 2, Chargers 3, Raiders 4.
Yeah, I think so.
All right. Maybe the one place where the Broncos inside linebacker group, you can't spend everything everywhere, and this might be the one group where you got good production out of your linebackers last year, but not necessarily the name grabs that some of the other teams might have. I think Nick Bolton is good downhill. I think Drew Tranquil, converted safety, is good coverage. I don't like that pair actually better than the Broncos. I do really like Henley from the Chargers. I think he's an up-and-coming guy. I think Denzel Perryman is a really solid pro, and Troy Dye is a nice third.
I agree.
So I like that. I like that group. It'll be interesting to see Quay Walker and Nakobe Dean, former Georgia teammates, back together again. I think name-wise, that is a really interesting group, but they both underperformed in their previous spots, which is why they were allowed to leave. But I think they might get something out of that. I kind of like the upside there and the youth. That actually might be my favorite pairing. But feel good about where the Broncos are. How do you think of that group?
Yeah, I would probably put Broncos at 2. I'd probably put the Chargers at 1, just because I think I want to see Walker and Dean on the field together. Obviously, there's some potential chemistry and upside with those guys, but again, like you said, if they were as good as advertised, they wouldn't be on this team probably. So, they are probably the best tandem. If you're throwing names out, but I don't know. I think that Singleton and Stranad played well last year. I think there's obviously some weakness there. I don't know. I think I would still put Denver 2. I'd probably put the Chargers 1.
Okay.
With that group.
Interesting. I like the Chargers. I don't like them better than the. To be honest, though, like they all kind of got warts.
That's
interesting. But finding a really good, the Luke Kuechly's and Patrick Gold, they don't grow on trees, and I think that a lot of fans think that might be the case. I'm going to give you the rankings. One, because I think that it is that up where we'll just kind of it's going to have to play out on the field, and I don't mean that just to be cliche, but does Justin Strnad take a step forward, which he has? He's done a good job over the last 2 years of really just continuing to progress. Does Alex Singleton continue to play like he did over the last half of the season when he was just a force of nature, or is there something else? And I think the depth there is a little bit of an unknown for the Broncos. Jordan Turner's out, non-football injury, football related injury designation. So you hope maybe he's around, but a lot of unknowns. And I think some of the other teams have, I think, a little bit more of an established group. So I'll give it the Broncos being second or third with, I think any opportunity for all of those groups to switch. I think they all got a case for first, so I got a case for last, and we're in between. But with that, let's talk about the secondary. You got the Raiders, who Eric Stokes, Teron Johnson, and the potential boom and or bust, Jamon McCoy, with Jeremy Chin and Treydon Stoops as the safeties. For the Chargers, you got you have Still Hart and Dante Jackson, who was, in my opinion, really, really good player for them last year, with Derwin James and Tony Jefferson back there at safety. The Chiefs decided to go YOLO, brought back Snead, Noah Williams, who I really like, Christian Fulton, who is a wish he woulda coulda kind of player, and then Minnesota Delane, who first quarterback taken off the board, top 10 pick. Safeties, Jaden Hicks and Alani Gilman, maybe. And then the Denver Broncos, who, to me, by far the best quarterback room for sure, with Pat Surtain, Riley Moss, Jaquan McMillan, and I think Talanoa Hufanga playing at an all-pro level, especially if he gets 2 of those 10 picks he dropped. And then Brandon Jones, who you saw the absence. I thought PJ stepped in pretty well when he did, but there were some real ups and downs, and I think you saw the challenge of replacing a Brandon Jones and his complement of Hufanga. I think by far it's the best. It's the best in the group. Who do you have as number 2?
Probably. You know what? I'm going to give it to the Raiders, actually. I kind of like the way the room is constructed. I like that they got Treydon Stooks. I thought he was a really good pickup for them. I like Jamon McCoy, so I really like their young guys. I'm not ready to give it to the Chargers. I want to see Mansour Delane as a, CV 1 or 2 on the field. I think that he's obviously has some really good upside and can be a really good player, but it's just an unproven right now. And I don't know. I just think that the upside of the room for the Raiders is the most interesting to me. So right now, I'll give it to them. Plus, they got guys who can play. Teron Johnson, Darian Porter, Jeremy Chin, Eric Stokes, guys that, can play a little bit. So I think the Broncos are easily number 1, though. I don't think there's much debate there.
Yeah, I like how the Chargers played. It'll be interesting to see Chris O'Leary as their new defensive coordinator versus Jesse Winter, who is now the Ravens head coach, and see if there's drop off. I think Derwin James is kind of the best player outside of Pat Surtain in the secondary in any of the groups. I think Kansas City is far and away the 4th. Everyone's decimated, and but I don't even, outside of Delaney, I guess, I don't feel really good about any of their prospects in terms of high upside. And so I would have the Chargers too, just from what they did last year. But I do like your take on the upside. I do the Raiders, especially if McCoy hits, even kind of hits, have an opportunity to really have a plus group And then I just threw it in here, special teams. I actually think this is the one area where the Raiders have, I think, a strong case for having the best group.
Okay.
Matt Gay was pretty good last year. AJ Cole, to me, is probably one of the betterest punters in the league. Outside of that, you got Cameron, don't call me names, Dicker. J.K. Scott punting for the Chargers. You got Harrison Butker and Matt Araiza for the Chiefs. And then you got Will Big Nuts Lutz and Jeremy Crawshaw. Do you even care?
No, not really. No. I mean, Broncos are probably, second, third, somewhere in there,
But if you had Mims to the.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you had Mims in there, I think it bumps them up for sure. I think Kansas City's Brashard Smith, who's a shifty, returner. I think he's solid. Trey Tucker for Vegas. And Cameron, oh no, who's that? Kick return. Keaton Mitchell. That can't be right.
No,
okay.
It can't be.
All right. Well, regardless, I think if you're giving it to with a returner, I think Broncos are number 2, maybe number 1. But otherwise, I think it's probably a little bit of a moot point.
Exactly. All right. Who has the best coach in the division? Is it still Andy Reid?
Well, not last year. I don't think Andy Reid coached very well last year, to be honest. But I would still probably give him the edge just for his resume and just the teams that he's put together. So, even though I don't think he was great last year, I think I think it's Andy Reid than the Broncos. I think Sean Payton's a much better coach than Jim Harbaugh. So I'm not going to, even though I like Mike McDaniels probably more as a coordinator for the Chargers than we know, just because Webb is just such an unknown quantity. I'm still going to give the edge to the Broncos at number 2.
It's fair. Spagnuolo, I think, is probably one of the best defensive coordinators, in my opinion, in history.
For sure.
With what he did in New York and Kansas City. Eric Bieniemy coming back, I think that there will be, it's kind of bringing the band back. We'll see if they can recoup that magic. But sometimes I think sometimes you don't have the players. And when your best receiver is a head case, it makes it hard. But I think that's been some of the personnel choices. You expect Pat Mahomes to be able to carry all of that weight, and at some point, the guy's human, and then you get rid of your secondary, all this stuff. But Vance Joseph was the best coordinator, one of the best coordinators in the sport last year or the last couple of years. So I really like him there, and the play calling will be a question. I think that would be the thing that knocks it down to do, is you just don't know, with the upside of it being that could be the best room, not taking historical measures into account, but just this year, especially because I think it allows Peyton to be able to in-game manage maybe a little bit more instead of being focused on play calls and that kind of stuff. That also could be a bad thing because he hasn't done that in a long time and has been the primary play caller. And so maybe that isn't his forte, but a good group nonetheless. And some of the best assistant coaches, you got Ronald Curry, they've done a great job of stacking. Shreve, who is a phenomenal O-line coach, just stacking their coaching staff. So I think we like where they stack up. I think it looks like the Broncos are fit to have a good run this season. Any last words before you sign us off there, JTZ?
I don't think so, man. I think it's exciting times. Camp has started. We're going to be keeping a close eye on it. The Doc and I and Chris talked about some summer scouting we're going to go over at some point. So we're going to be looking at some college football season coming up and guys to keep an eye on. We made we're still determining how we're going to best do that. But there's football around the corner, and I think everyone is happier for it. Thanks again to Drew for being on. I know he had to bounce, but understandable. It's the father's duty to take care of the kiddos once they pop up. So thank you, Drew, for being with us. Otherwise, I'm ready to close it out. Got any final words, Doc?
No, just sports is awesome.
All right. Well, we appreciate you all. Thank you for being here today. We will be back next week. So until then, be kind to one another. Be safe out there. And if you need a sports prescription, ask a doctor.
From football to hockey, we're taking it higher. Join the celebration, feel that sports desire.